Good evening. Welcome to the Norton Board of Selectmen's meeting. Tonight is May 2nd, 2019. Let the record show 4 members of the board are present, including Town Manager Michael Units. I want to take this moment to welcome 2 new members, Ms. Renee Deely and Mr. Jack Conway, to the board, and I look forward to working with both of them.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, Mr. Flaherty is absent. He had a work conflict. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Just to show that power has gone to my head, we're going to skip things and go to appointments and resignations. At a previous meeting, we appointed Ms. Kelly Malone as part-time secretary in the assessor's office, and we asked her to come just so we could be introduced to her. So we're going to ask her to come forward now and see who she is. Very good, thank you.
You guys can come up with it.
Moral support.
It's the whole staff.
The whole staff.
The staff.
So, no hot spot or anything like that. Just we want to put a face to the name and have you tell us a little something about yourself.
All right. Yeah. I'm Kelly Malone. I'm from Buffalo, New York originally, but I've been living in Mass for 30 years, and I live in Attleboro now. I have 3 kids, married very happily, and happy to be here.
Excellent. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments? Seeing none, just want to welcome you and
Thank you.
hope you have a good tenure with us.
Thanks, I
And
appreciate that.
It's very fulfilling.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming tonight, just so we can, when we see you, we'll know where you belong.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we'll go back to the agenda, just because I'll get lost if I don't follow something. Under licenses and permits, we have an application by Jamie DeRocha for a 1-day all-alcohol license for a private event at the Everett Leonard Park on June 22nd, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. The application has been signed off by both the fire and police, and I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments. If not, the board will entertain a motion to approve the 1-day all-alcohol license for the private event at Everett Leonard Park on June 22nd, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. for Jamie DeRocha.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. This being a liquor license, it requires a roll call vote. Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Deely?
Yes.
Ms. Steele? And I also vote yes. So that's unanimous. Second, we have another application, this one by Teresa Avoya Archie for a 1-day all-alcohol license for a private event at the Everett Leonard Park on July 20th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Again, this license, this application has been signed off by the fire and police. No details are required. And unless anyone has any questions, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the application of Teresa Avoya Archie for a 1-day all-alcohol license for a private event at the Everett Leonard Park on July 20th, 2019, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Deely?
Yes.
Ms. Steele?
Yes.
And I also vote yes. That also is unanimous. Announcements. Ms. Steele, please.
Okay, so the first announcement we have is an evening with medium Dr. Kathy Ripley Green on Friday, June 14th, 2019, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Norwood Elks, 152 Winslow Ave in Norwood, Mass. It's a fundraiser to benefit the veterans of Norwood and the MSG Trent Memorial Fund. The tickets are $45 each, and if you're interested in purchasing one, you can email norwoodvsafr@gmail.com for tickets. And I think that covers that. The second announcement is the Norton Firefighters Local 2678 Senior Citizen Pancake Breakfast will be Thursday, May 16th from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the St. Mary's Church on 1 Power Street in Norton. They'll be serving pancakes, scrambled eggs, sausages, home fries, beans, coffee, and juice. And you could also have a free blood pressure checkup. And the last, actually I have two more announcements. There'll be a public open house on the Town Hall Community Center feasibility studies at the Henry A. Yell Elementary School cafeteria on May 9th, 2019 at 6 p.m. And we also have a notice from the Norton Veterans Council that their weather permitting, there will be the Memorial Day Parade on Monday, May 27th at 1 p.m. In the event of inclement weather, the ceremony will be held in the Henry A. Yell Gymnasium. The guest speaker will be Navy veteran Neil Byron. Let's see, all parade participants will assemble at the Henry A. Yell School parking lot at 12:30 and step off at 1 p.m. The parade will proceed east on Main Street to the Stone Monument on the corner of Pine and East Main Streets for a brief ceremony. Upon completion, the procession will reform and proceed west to the Town Common and conclude with a ceremony at the Master Sergeant Trent Memorial. The Norton Police Department will present the gun salute. And upon completion of all events, formation will reform and return to the Henry A. Yell School to disband. Refreshments will be available at the school cafeteria. And that's all I have for announcements.
Okay. Do you have any announcements, Ms. Deely?
No.
Mr. Conway?
No.
Okay, I also have no further announcements. So we'll move on to appointments and resignations. The board tonight is looking to make an appointment of the Board of Selectmen's representative to the Serpent Commission. I know Mr. Stefanelli has been our representative. I don't even see a letter requesting reappointment. We do have a letter from Sandy Overhead regarding her interest in serving as a Serpent representative. So if Sandy wants to come up and plead her case again.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So as you all know, I've been going to the meetings, the SERPED meetings for the past year as the alternate, and I've got a lot of, great, in terms of the latest projects and initiatives, a lot of great information from the commission. It's been a really, really good opportunity to kind of hear what's going on in the region, both through the meetings themselves and also at the end of the meeting, they have a roundtable discussion where all the different commissioners, there's 27, I think, communities in SERPED, and they all, share different things that are happening in their towns and concerns that they have. So as a SERPED rep, if I were chosen, I would love to have the opportunity to bring Norton's concerns to the commission and get feedback from other communities as well.
Does anybody on the board have any questions? Or
I do. Thanks, Cindy, for volunteering all last year. So I guess the SERPED isn't the most exciting appointment that you could have in this town. However, it's extremely important. The committee is very important in what they have to offer to the town of Norton. I'm not sure a lot of people really understand what it is or what you do when you go there. And since we have a pretty full room and 2 new select members, would you mind just giving us a quick overview of what the meetings are about and what we hope to get out of them?
Sure. I mean, I first was introduced to SERPED when I joined the Rail Trail Committee. So they were instrumental in helping us get the bike path approved with the state and the funding for the state. So they work on projects like that with the communities. They share every meeting, every month, we have something different that they're letting us know about in the region, things that they're involved with, projects they're involved with, as well as just general happenings in the area. Last month, or this month, we had a meeting where the South Coast Rail representative came to talk to us about what was happening there, the project. So they'll share those kinds of things. Again, there's a lot of information that a lot of projects that they're involved with and in the town of Norton. I know they're involved with our master plan, so they've definitely been a huge benefit to Norton. And as I said, it's a really nice community because it's a lot of different people from different towns that are kind of sharing and letting us know what's going on and keeping everybody in tune with what's happening in the area.
I'm going to make a motion in a minute to appoint you anyways, but would you be willing to come back in maybe it doesn't have to be out, maybe 3 months, 4 months, and just give us an update? We never really get a lot of feedback on
Sure.
what those meetings are and what might be coming down the pike for Norton, or give us a chance to learn a little bit more about the
Absolutely.
resources that are out there for the town. So do you want me to go ahead?
Well, I just want to make sure that,
I had a similar question because you had mentioned here that you'd update the board on topics, so I think you answered that with Mary. I would ask the first time for your update, 'cause since you just mentioned it, and if you would include some information on the bike path,
Okay.
I think that would be great.
Yeah.
And
So
to your point, like a quarterly, how often does the group meet?
the commission meets every month.
Okay.
Yeah, the bike path right now is a little bit, waiting for the state, I guess, to fund, right? It's
Right.
hurry up and wait is kind of the way that's been.
But I think it'd be good just to understand the status and the work that you do.
Right,
on that.
absolutely.
I think that'd be awesome. I think this is great.
Yep, I agree. I think the Serpide would be lucky to have you as a full-time member.
Thank you.
okay. Unless there's any other, I'm thrilled about Serpide only because, for a selfish reason, because they recommended the traffic light at the end of North Worcester Street. So I can actually go through that intersection now, eventually, if I'm still here. Hopefully, the traffic lights will be there before the hearse is driving me through.
Keep it positive.
But, yeah, that is positive. That being said, the chair will entertain a motion to appoint Sandy Overhead as the Selectmen's representative of the Serpide Commission.
So moved.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before, I'm sorry,
That's
not
all
to
right.
monopolize your time tonight, but before we let Cindy go, there's, we were asked if we wanted to nominate anybody to the, let me get this right, Southeastern Massachusetts Medical Planning Organization. Are you familiar with that at all?
I know that they've talked about it at the Serpide meetings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but that's not really, is that a different group that meets?
I think it's a subset almost, like they're.
It's more like a overview group. You have to be elected to that, right?
Right, so we would have to, if somebody on this board was interested, then
Yeah.
we would have to put our nomination in, and, okay, great, thank you. So, that being said, is that, this person we should
Put it on.
cover it tonight
We can put it on the next agenda.
on the next agenda, just in case anybody's interested in
Yep.
it.
And-
So, the deadline for that is June 6th.
And possibly get some background on when they meet and, just what kind of a time commitment it would make. Make sure that
And
You
before we
know-
get too excited, they only pick,
two.
they've
believe.
got 2 openings for 2 selectmen out of all the towns that are interested.
Exactly.
I don't know how much interest there is in it. Okay, so that'll be next week.
Thank you.
All set? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. We have a couple of minutes. We have, I'm sorry, I forgot your name from the Disabled American Veterans. The Corporal William F. Reardon, Chapter 57, request for permission to conduct the annual Forget Me Not Drive on August 24th and 25th.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. It's not my first visit. I've been here before the board many times. The DAV, the Disabled American Veterans, are not a town group. We're a community-wide. It's probably because, like many of the veterans organizations, like many of the old service organizations, gentrification has set in. We're getting old. We're dying off. Members are dissolving. The disabled American veterans are located physically in Taunton. However, we have all of the contiguous towns. We have merged. We have allowed the Middleborough disabled American veterans to merge into us. As their members get old, the group gets smaller. We have the Mansfield disabled American veterans had the same problem. They got smaller. They didn't have enough people to go to a meeting. They merged. So when I come before you as representing Chapter 57, I'm not just representing Taunton. I'm representing all of the communities around here. Our goal, our main purpose, is to aid and assist veterans and or their dependents who are in need. Need isn't just money. Well, it's a nice thing to have it. We have veterans who come to us, fix my car. If you don't fix my car, I can't go to work. If I can't go to work, I'm going on welfare. We'll fix your car. We have mothers come to us. My kid's going to kindergarten. I don't have enough money to buy his pencils and crayons. Can you help me? At the opposite end, we have people who are going for their master's degree. They don't have enough money to pay the supplies. So we're supplying kindergartners and we're supplying master's degree people because they're needy. The chapter itself is needy. Our needs are basically to take care of our clients. One of our primary clients is the Brockton VA Hospital. The chapter adopted the chronic psych wards over there. These are the patients, these are the residents who are not institutionalized because they can't function on the outside. These are people. These are men and women who can't handle the outside work. They don't know how to budget. They don't know how to maintain their medication, so they come to the VA hospital and go through a learning process. These are adults. These aren't kids anymore. These are people who have already been through the wars. We go there once a month. We bring 20 cheese pizzas, 20 pepperoni pizzas, soda coming out of all over. It's not unusual, if you have ever seen or been in the military, to find someone who's eaten a complete meal, and if something is put in front of them 2 seconds later, they're hungry. We've had people come back and have 5 double slices of pizza. They've already eaten. They're there, they don't know what to do with themselves. If the food is in front of them, that's their need. So we have all types of needs, like Estelle downstairs. A man or a woman comes in, she has a problem. She wouldn't visit Estelle and she wouldn't visit us unless she had a problem. It's our job to help them. So what I'm here for actually is requesting permission from you to satisfy our needs, to collect money so that we can take care of the needs of the needy veterans, their survivors, their dependents. What we do, as you know, is get permission from the board. After we have permission from the board, we have to get permission from a landowner or a renter to come on their property. Once a year when we do this, we do it in the fall, we do it in September, October. Unlike the VFW, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the American Legion, who work around Memorial Day. We try to let them have their territory and their time. They let us have our territory and our time. That way, we both reap the benefits of your pockets, hopefully. But what we would like to do is conduct a campaign this fall so that we can take care of our clients. Did you have any questions? I'd be very happy to answer.
I just want to commend you. I've been here for many of the years that you've come, and this is a wonderful charity. 100% of what you put in their can for their forget-me-not goes to the veterans, and they serve any veteran that needs, and they, I know myself, I'll go out of my way to make sure I shop on one of the days that he's going to, either him or one of his members will be usually at the Roach Brothers.
Yeah.
Because you're always looking for a charity that you know it's going to what they say it's going to. And this is one of those things that you're guaranteed that 100% of what you're giving is going to the spot that's needed, and that's a disabled American veteran.
Thank you for the booster. The Forget-Me-Not Drive, the money goes into our service and charitable account. None of that money is used for administrative purposes. It's all guaranteed, it's all dedicated to serving the veterans or their dependents or their survivors.
So does anyone else have any questions or comments? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the request for the disabled American veterans, Corporal William F. Reardon, Chapter 57, request for permission to conduct the annual Forget-Me-Not Drive. It says here on August 4th and August 25th, 2019, but I would leave that date open, that if that doesn't work with their schedule, that they have our permission to hold their annual Forget-Me-Not Drive, period.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous.
Thank you
very much.
ladies and gentlemen.
Get the wheat, people.
Okay. The next order of business is, we had to, I'm trying to think of the word. We tried to hold a public hearing on the relocation of the Wheaton common victor, the malt liquor, the wines and malt beverage liquor license. And at the time, there had been a problem with the notification of abutters. So it was continued to this evening, and we don't have to reread the notification. So we don't have to read the notification because that's already been into the record, but if you could identify yourselves just for the
You want to
record.
vote to reopen the
Oh.
hearing?
I'll entertain a motion to reopen the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Now you can identify yourselves.
Good evening, I'm Megan Cass. I work in the finance office at the college.
And my name is Scott O'Rourke. I'm the director of dining at the college.
Okay, maybe you can, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You're moving it from one place to another, but if you could kind of explain where it was and where it's going now.
Sure. So we have 3 locations on campus currently. Chase Dining Hall, which is our residential dining hall. The Dance Studio.
Yep.
and the loft. So because of the renovations and things that we've done on campus, we basically want to move those locations to better fit our needs, basically. So Chase Dining is the only residential dining location on campus. Emerson and Chase both used to be residential before. So we'd like to take that liquor license out of Chase and move it to, I think we said, the President's House. And what was the other one? The other one was...
The one in the dance studio.
Okay, so the dance studio, it's small, and it's also used a lot more frequently because there's a lot more dance groups on campus. So we'd like to move that liquor license to the Emerson location, which was renovated a couple of years ago and is better suited for that need.
Yeah, personally, I've seen the Emerson Dining Hall, and it does look like it'd be a much better
Yeah,
function
beautiful
facility.
location.
Yes.
Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve. Is there anyone in the audience? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anyone in the audience who has any comment? I'll get this eventually, and then my term will be up. I have a slow learning curve. Yes, sir.
I have a comment.
Yes, sir. Please come here, just because we have people at home who want to hear you, and then please identify yourself, just so we have it for the minute.
Certainly. My name is William Farrow. I live at 16 Mansfield Avenue. We're directly across from the backstop at the ball field with the college. And frankly, speaking as neighbors across the street from there, we're worried. What we're worried about is that if the alcohol comes across the street to the President's House, that it's going to bring some noise and some drinking and some safety concerns, partly in our house and I think also on 123. I'm concerned about if there are pedestrians and there's been drinking walking across 123. I think that it's a dangerous spot. I think these are all problems now, and I'm concerned that they might be made considerably worse by this proposal. I know that the initial, I imagine that let me start differently. I guess I don't really know what the scale of operation is intended to be. I know that it's a common practice in other schools for these venues to be rented out to larger other events, and so that could become quite a bit bigger. And so we're concerned that that might really make both our house noisier and also the 123. And so what we're concerned about is, what's the intent really? Is it really for small within the college operations, or is it intended to be rented out as a money-making venture? And we're concerned that it might also go to the, be coupled with the athletic events, which are already noisy from our perspective, and they would get noisier still, is our worry. And so to control this kind of a thing, we think that there ought to be some limits about how big is the venue, how often is it conducted, where, what's it limited to geographically, and I guess the hours of operation. So that's our concern.
And may I just clarify, you're more concerned with the President's House?
Yes.
Okay, so if they could, that way there, they can kind of explain what they envision for the use.
Right, exactly. And I think that the Emerson venue and keeping it on the main side of the campus, I think that makes sense because there is a buffer and all that.
I understand. I just want to make sure that I wasn't assuming something.
Right. No, thank you for clarifying.
So could I maybe answer
Yes,
a couple
please
things?
answer.
So the President's House is only going to be for inside the President's House, and the seating capacity or occupancy capacity in that area, I think, is 45 or 49 people.
49 is the number.
So it's a max there. It's not, the license is not for outside at all. So if the school, the college wanted to do something outside, they would actually have to come back for a one-day permit to do something like that outside. NCAA regulations don't allow any alcohol near the athletic fields. As a matter of fact, a statement is read before each game, letting people know, to conduct themselves in a certain way, and that alcoholic beverages aren't allowed in the area. There are 2 non-season coaches that attend each of the athletic events, and they actually, I don't want to call them patrolling, but they're there to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing also. So hopefully that answers some of your questions.
Yeah, we're not intending to increase the number of events held on campus, just change the locations.
Yeah.
If we do have events at the President's House, we are very good about hiring security to handle the crosswalk detail, either Norton Police or our own public safety. So I appreciate your concerns.
If I attend some of the games, I've eaten too.
Yes, ma'am? Could you please come up?
Sure.
I hate to be a pain, but my ratings depend on getting people on camera.
Paula Foss, I'm from 16 Mansfield Avenue also. I just wanted to clarify, the license is the same for both sides of the street, 26 and 28? And I don't know, what kind of a license is it? Is it a commercial license, or what is it called?
It's a license to dispense alcohol.
Yeah.
It's not like, in this case here, the occupancy permit, the occupancy is set by the size by the fire department, but the license itself is not going to be like for 50 people or something like that. It's going to have to do with the occupancy that's required by fire codes and things like that. In my mind, I just envision the president's house, knowing the size of it, was going to be more for smaller social gatherings. And larger events would be at the Emerson Hall.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. I've been to a couple there, it's really nice. Is it a 360, it's like 365 days a year, so you could have an event any time of the year?
Yes.
Okay. Does it operate till, say, 2 in the morning? Is a license for that length of time?
We don't usually have things open to that. Usually these are for like cocktail receptions or events like that, especially at the president's house, so nothing like that would be going on.
Okay. And would it be rented out to third-party
No.
venues? Never. Okay, that's really good news. Okay. That's, I guess that's pretty much our concerns. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Any questions?
You're welcome.
And as far as hours go, all liquor licenses have limitations on the hours that alcohol can be dispensed, so it wouldn't be an all-nighter that you have to worry about. You want to be invited. We'll make that a stipulation.
Well, I guess this has their support.
Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, you know, when we have issues like this with liquor licenses, quite often we have neighbors that have concerns, which obviously I get, right? If I was living there, I would be concerned too. And it kind of puts us in a tough spot because we're dealing with an applicant who we actually haven't had any issues with in the past, so we don't have any reason to deny such a request. At the same time, we want to take into consideration the concerns of the neighbors, right? So what I would like to just remind everybody, because we do say this almost after every license application, is if there were any problems, as a licensing authority, you could come to us and let us know what happened, and then we would deal with the applicant, and if it was serious enough, we could revoke the license or, you know, take some further action if it was necessary. So it's not, by us approving this tonight doesn't mean that, you know, you're stuck with whatever comes down your way. I actually feel, having been to some of the events there, it is more of a cocktail type thing with guests that the president is trying to impress, so I'd be highly surprised if it was a drunken brawl that you might expect from maybe the students. But anyways, so I just wanted to throw that out there too, so that you know that we're listening to you. If there ever were any issues, please, you know, come right back to us, and I know the school will react quickly as well.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of closing the hearing? Aye. Now, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the change of venue of the Wheaton Common Victor Wine and Malt licenses from the Ellis Dance Studio in Chase Round to the Emerson Dining Hall and the public entertainment space in the President's House.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Deely?
Yes.
Ms. Steele?
Yes.
And I also vote yes.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your input.
See if the guy from next credit's here.
Okay. The next order of business is to review and/or vote to approve the pilot on the subscription agreement between Norton and the NextGrid Patriots LLC. Mr. Units is just going out to check to see if the representative from NextGrid is in fact here. Here he is.
Me, sir. I was watching from the hall.
We found him, Mike.
Talking to Paul and missed my call up.
You missed your cue, huh?
Yeah. So, yeah, my name is Daniel Serber. I'm the development director with NextGrid Incorporated. For the purpose of this, NextGrid Redwood LLC. We just name our different projects after trees, so no significance there. And we propose to build this, relatively small 1.3 megawatt solar field at 54 Plain Street. That was approved by the planning board a few weeks ago as part of the conditions. The pilot was written in, as well as the subsequent, the agreement essentially to have the town be the beneficiary of the off-taker adder provided by the Massachusetts SMART program. And you guys have both of those documents. We were provided the pilot agreement from the town, and we made some minor adjustments to that. Mostly, there's a lot of provisions in there saying that if we increase the capacity, we'll reevaluate the cost and pay you per kilowatt hour increase. We just added also decrease because as part of the decision by the planning board, they kind of left it open-ended that if there was sound issues that the size could be reduced. So we just wanted the agreement to be able to flow both ways.
We always try and hide that part.
Sorry. So we can divide up the two if you want to talk about the pilot first, and then we can talk about.
Do you have a preference, Mr. Units?
The pilot is easier to talk about. We've sent this to council to be reviewed. My main question for them is, here it says the developer shall have the option to extend the initial term for 3 additional and successive 5-year periods. I'm waiting for council to let us know if that's actually legal. If we adopt a pilot for 20 years, then can we just automatically extend it? I'm waiting to hear back from them on that. And the last page spells out the annual payment of $20,000 a year, or $400,000 over the 20 years, and this is for the 1.3 megawatt project. And as was said, if they're able to increase the megawatts, we'd get an increase in the pilot, and if they can't get 1.3 megawatts, then we'd have a slight decrease based on the amount of megawatts in the pilot. Pilots are all, I know a lot of people think that pilots, like, why aren't the people paying taxes? Pilot is a way that we get a set payment every year. It stabilizes things, because if a solar facility was taxed, it could go up and it could go down depending on the market conditions.
The state of Massachusetts exempted solar from taxation, so this is the only way you guys can get direct financial benefit besides the discount that we're providing.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I just have a question. How did we, how's the value figured, the annual tax payment?
There's a formula that the assessors have to go through with the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue has to review all pilots, and so it's all based on the cost of the. You can jump in at the cost of the project.
It's whatever. So the state of Massachusetts, the SMART program gives us a certain payment based on what block we're in. This is going to be actually in the bottom block, so we're going to be one of the last projects in National Grid. So we'll get a certain amount per kilowatt hour, the size, and then the amount of space. And there's a 11 question form that Denise, right?
Right.
Denise sent, and we filled out, and she calculated the fee. She said at the low side it would be 18,600, and the high side would be 20,000, and we just went with the high side.
Thank you.
I did have one question for, is there any benefit to you guys to take less than 400,000, but if we paid all within year one? Like if we paid 370,000 in year one instead of paying over time? Is that a benefit to you guys, or?
I mean, I'd rather see it spread out so we have some money every year, but that's something we haven't talked about at all.
So the proposal would be a discounted amount, so 370 instead of as a lump sum
Yeah.
versus 400 over.
If, for the time value of money, we think it would be more valuable to you guys to get all up front, potentially. But if the idea is to stable your budget for 20 years, then it's probably best to leave as is.
I mean, that's my personal opinion, that I like it slow and steady, so we can plan on it, and I'm afraid that if we got 375 at once, that we'd use it all in year 1 and 2, and then we'd have to make up that loss of revenue someplace else.
Well, and we'd worry about too, if you had a decrease as well, then would we have to pay that money back? And we could potentially already have used it.
True.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yep.
Anyone else?
This is the project by LG Norse? the
Yes.
school. Did that include moving the playground? Is that what I heard?
So originally I talked to Mike about paying to redo the playground in lieu of year one pilot program, and that was ultimately rejected by the city attorney, or it didn't actually happen. So we're going to pay the schools to take out some trees that have died and do some other small things on our side with our own labor. But as far as the playground, that is not included in this.
So Mike, can you provide some clarity into that?
Yeah, the logic was that what they were going to give, Joe said what they were going to give to the schools wasn't enough money to build the playground. So then we said, well, then we might as well just take the pilot payment, and whatever your playground's going to cost, you can just put in capital for it, and you'll get money out of capital just like every other project.
So we're planning on the $20,000 or however much for a playground to go to the schools for the playground first?
This will just be money that comes into the town, and the schools will put in a capital request like they do every other project, and they'll get money that way for the playground.
Okay, so was there some agreement that some of this money would go to the play? I'm just trying to understand like what we.
The way I'm understanding it, it's anything that's in capital is competitive.
Okay.
It's not guaranteed, but that would be up to capital committee to where the money would be earmarked. But the way I understand it, the 20,000 just goes into the general fund. And, I mean, in which case, using the normal split, I got to do my quick math, 14,000 would go to the schools and 6,000 would go to, roughly, to the town. Usually it's about a 70-30 split. Now, where the town attorney is looking into a couple of things in this pilot.
Right.
We'd have to take it under advisement anyways, and couldn't vote on it this evening.
Right.
Anyways. So, does anyone else have any questions on the pilot itself?
Just a comment that your company name on page 2 is spelled wrong. It was one of your changes.
You can go to that, but thank you. Oh, you're right. GIR. Thank you.
Music to my ears.
And I would move that we take the pilot under advisement, at least until our next meeting, when we can get feedback from town council.
We have a lot of time on this, it doesn't come into play until after construction, when we don't think it'll complete till August is what we're hoping for. So just if you guys have any questions about this and the other thing, I think it's probably better to not rush a vote.
Right, and hindsight being 2020, I think that myself, any proposals that come before the board, I would like to not vote on at the meeting of the first reading, but take them under advisement so that we can digest what we're reading and what we're hearing, and also have time for possible feedback from people in the community who might have more personal interest in the subject or personal knowledge. So that would be my suggestion. So I guess would you I'll entertain a motion to take the pilot under advisement until our next meeting or until we hear from town council.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that would bring us to the subscriber agreement.
Yeah, okay, so just full disclosure, I'm not an expert on this yet either. So we're working through the SMART program, which is a new program. So no one in the state's really been through it in this capacity yet. So we're all learning. But the Massachusetts SMART program provides certain adders. Those adders increases the cost of kilowatt hours or the cost per kilowatt hour that the state will pay when you do certain things. One of those things is 2 different types of community solar. So one's just normal community solar where anyone can take part, and one is a low-income community solar where if we can fill up 51% of the project offtake with low-income residents, they can be anywhere in eastern Massachusetts, but we'd prefer them all to be in Norton, can take up 51%. Then the other 49% of the off-taker can be the town of Norton and the 11 abutters to the property. The way that works is instead of us getting a normal check from the utility, the off-takers will get what they call an alternative on-bill credit. So you guys will get a credit for the amount of power our system is generating, and then I hope I'm understanding this right myself, you guys would pay us for that power minus 3 cents a kilowatt hour. So you guys would be getting a 3-cent kilowatt hour discount off of all your power. And we have other projects that we can also put in with Norton. So we could actually do that for, we think, almost all the town's power, which would save you guys quite a lot of money over the life of the project. Like I said, it's probably best if you guys take a look, digest that, talk to your attorneys, have them, digest that, and we'll get you the full savings numbers over time. If you guys want to continue with this, I don't see any reason why anyone wouldn't want to, but I'm here to answer any questions I can.
Any questions from the board?
So that 3 cent a kilowatt hour reduction would apply to everyone in town?
No, it would apply to the town's bills, the designated abutters, and anyone that qualifies. There's 21 qualifications by the state of what qualifies as low income. Okay. The easiest way is the 40B housing. Is that right? 40B?
40B.
40B housing is the easiest way to qualify residents, but brainstorming with Paul, we think seniors is probably the biggest outreach.
Okay. So town abutters and low income if they meet certain criteria.
Sorry?
The town abutters and low income if they meet certain criteria?
Yep. And to get the full 3 cent benefit, we would need to get 51% as low income. If not, it would go down to regular low income solar and it would be closer to 1 cent. So not nearly as good.
Any other questions? Any questions from any of the attendees? Okay. Then I would move that we, I'll entertain a motion that we take under advisement the subscription agreement also between the town and Nextel, Next Grid Patriot LLC.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, it's all confused. Next Grid Patriots will be the landowner. Next Grid Redwood will be the project owner, and then my company's is Next Grid Incorporated. So I know it's, yep.
You just completely screwing me up.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of,
Aye.
thank you. I also.
Is that it?
So I think we've taken care of it.
Tell John Carroll to come up.
Okay. If you guys have questions, just email them direct, especially about the money part, so I can get those answered for you by 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is from Carroll Advertising, Mr. John Carroll, to discuss an article on digital electric billboards and a mitigation grant agreement. Mr. Eunice?
The last time John was here to talk to you about putting the article on the warrant. We did not have the mitigation agreement, but we have that for you to review now. I'll just go over that first, John, and then you can go over the mitigation agreement that you have. So Carroll will pay to the town a total of up to $600,000, structured as follows. Within 60 days of Carroll obtaining all final permits for each billboard structure, and this would be if there were two, including without limitation permits or approvals from the Outdoor Advertising Board and building permits from the town of Norton, Carroll will make one lump sum payment to the town of $300,000 per billboard structure. And these payments will be made to the town and shall be in addition to and not in lieu of any amounts due to the town's independent taxing authority. So the billboard itself will still pay taxes. And also, the town would have a certain amount of free time on the billboard where we could put things up, town meeting, election, Founder's Day, anything.
And this is intended for industrial land along
Right.
Route 495.
It would be industrial land, and it would also have to be within so many feet of Route 495. So we have other industrial properties throughout the town, but it would have to be along 495.
This is similar to a proposal that was brought before the board years ago, several years ago, and was not looked upon favorably by abutters in the Winnicott area. So, does anyone have any questions, or will I just turn it over to Mr. Carroll?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. And yes, you're correct. There were some questions last go-around that we really weren't prepared to answer. We didn't have the answers that the abutters were looking for. We've since actually, this will be the second time we're here, and I believe there was a hearing that was advertised for abutters, and this is Bob Messier from Daktronics. He's the expert on the technology that would be on the digital faces. We prepared ourselves this go around with light emission studies. Bob can speak more to that. And we have a radius of where the nearest abutter would be from the locations that would be likely the ones that we would be putting forward. And the nearest abutter is about 1,500 feet from the closest board, about 5 football fields away, with a large canopy of pines and growth. We have visuals to show that there's really no light emission put out from the boards. And again, Bob could speak more to that. We do have a mitigation agreement put forward in front of the board. We also have addressed some of the concerns about, well, if there's any traffic impact, there's a provision in the mitigation agreement that states that we would, after 1 year, if it's determined that there's an increase in accidents along 495, or at the board's determination that they are a distraction, then we would take the digital faces down. The town would still keep their mitigation, and we would just work with, static faces in the same location. So that's a huge investment on our part, and I wouldn't do it if I didn't feel completely confident that there will be no incidents. It's pretty much a straightaway, and the data supports that it'll be a safe location. So in addition to that, we have the public safety component. We give the state mandated public service announcements for, don't text and drive, and the ones that you might have seen. The town will get matching amounts with the state for the things that you guys deem necessary or would like to promote. Additionally, there's an Amber Alert component. If there's any any Amber Alert issue, it takes over the system, and there's a constant Amber Alert that just takes all the content off and just continues, and those are very effective throughout the country. There is one additional element to this that really wasn't present last time that might be exciting for you guys to hear about, and on another location that's very similar, the town of Sharon, which has also done a mitigation agreement, had a signal issue on the far end of town, and on the top of the billboard we installed a repeater that addressed the issue, that allowed the police and fire to have a better signal from that far side of town. We are going to install, I believe there's a similar issue within the town.
Mm-hmm.
This was a kind of a fluky thing that we just found out, so that's a perfect, additional benefit to the mitigation agreement, and we'll be installing that too. And I could get letters of support from the town of Sharon, from the police and fire, saying that they have been successful and it worked out well. I don't know. I'll turn it over to Bob, but I think the big issue was. I think what it boiled down to in a couple of instances that there was some abutters that just don't like billboards, and so we tried to address every point, and the studies would show there'd really be no light impact that far away from where the structure would be. So I'll turn it over to Bob Messier from Daktronics, the manufacturer.
Good evening. I do have some stuff I'll hand out to you. It kind of shows the location, a little graph of a brightness graph that we did showing. I have a copy of the Mass Highway, basically the final results after the pilot program that they did in the studies, and that was found, and kind of similar to what John was talking about. And then I'll hand out some other studies on. I mean, we're focusing on brightness because it's usually one of the biggest questions and concerns is, how bright is it at nighttime? So a lot of this has to do with that. So if I could, I'll hand these out. I'll explain a little about what that is. It shows the exact location of where the billboard would go.
So we'll share, and you can pass one so that you can just pass around there. Yep. When you're done, Peter, just pass it behind you, okay?
We can share if you need that. Yeah.
Maybe
And then this is the Mass Highway, DOT pilot program that they did years ago.
Good idea, Peter.
Thanks.
These are a couple of fresh visuals we have just a concentric circle. So
you just take a picture?
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah, take a picture too.
Yep.
So-
Thanks.
And then this is stuff I'm gonna leave behind with you.
Thank you.
So looking at the graph, the circle, if you look closely right at the center, that is the actual double-sided billboard faces pointing to it, the Interstate 495. And what we do is that circle goes out to 750 feet away at all angles looking at the billboard. And what those yellow numbers are is basically a foot candle reading of how much light at those distance would be thrown off the display. So as you can see, as you go off the center of the display, it dramatically drops down, and even straight on at 750 feet, you know, you're at 0.3 to 0.2 foot candles of light, which is very, very minimal. A foot candle is, if we were to make this room completely black and I lit a candle right in the middle of the room and I put something 1 foot away, that's how much brightness, that's the amount of light that's striking that at 1 foot. So at 750 feet away, you're only getting 0.02 tenths of the light of that candle. So that kind of just gives you a little background of what that is. Now the other thing is we also use a photocell that automatically and constantly reads the ambient light outside, and it will automatically dim the display as it gets dark, which is very important. So at bright sunny day, it's 100% brightness. In the darkness at night, it'll go down to about 4% of what it is, automatically. No one has to do anything. And this is the worst conditions in the middle of the night, is what the graph is showing. And then the other handouts that I gave you is just, like I said, the Mass Highway studies that were done, on traffic studies that were done over that time period through a pilot program that Mass DOT did. I should give them these just so it shows a picture of what I think.
So can you give us just a summary of what they found in their study?
Yeah, I don't know if I got a copy of that in front of me. I had a few copies of it. I might have it. This stuff. Thought I had some extra copies of that. There's one that's the DOT.
Do you want mine?
I mean, if you read through this, it basically explains the pilot program that Mass DOT did and put into place. And it kind of goes through basically the digital display. After all the pilot program on the locations that were permitted, there was nothing found proving or showing that there were any increase in accidents or any safety concerns. This was something Mass Highway did on their own. This wasn't funded, or I shouldn't say funded, but it wasn't sponsored by the industry. It was Mass Highway did it before they would issue any permits at all in the state.
Yesterday, Sharon, I seen those on Route 95 and Sharon numerous times. And also 24 in West Bridgewater. Yeah, yeah.
Does that, anyone have any questions? I have a question, but it's not pertinent to anything other than the fact that I just like trivia tapes. How often do the screens change?
It depends on different places, depending on where the location is and how much revenue the outdoor company's trying to squeeze out of it. For instance, if it is like a four-way intersection, there's exceedingly long light, they want to try to get maybe 8 flips out of that minute. So we do 6 flips, 6 10-second spots, and that's, I think, pretty much the standard.
I think to answer your question, I think you were asking about the hold time. Mass Highway basically has a 10-second hold time. That's what they said as, that's how often it can change from one advertisement to the other. It's an instantaneous change, and it must hold for 10 seconds. Between the brightness and the hold time, you'll never see any movement, any animation, any video. That is highly enforced by Mass Highway. They have people that go out and enforce it. I commend Mass Highway. They did a great job overall on doing the pre-work and studies to prove that these were okay in the state. And they're all for them. If you read through this here, they've gotten numerous great results from the public safety messaging, public service messaging that they've used them for.
Yeah, the similar billboard that I've seen most familiar with is on 24 in Brockton. And because I'm using, not 24, but I'm using the side streets.
Yeah.
And as far as illumination, it's almost, I don't know if the word backlighting, but it doesn't look like spotlights or anything.
There's no...
It's very mellow.
You don't even see it at night. I've actually gone and taken pictures of the back of a board. It was a V board, Route 1. This was for another presentation, and I wasn't expecting it to be so compelling. But when you're behind it, there was a big apartment building behind the board. They're kind of looking into the V. The board's on Route 1, but there was no spray of light at all. It was pitch black, and I have pictures that I can show you too. It was incredible. So no light spray at all.
Right. LED is a directional light, so the light is focused on basically the viewing audience. Once you get outside of that cone, it dramatically drops down. So it's intended to be more of a focused light where, you know, lights that shine up and light a billboard or street lights, those are meant to light up an area. So they're going to cause lights in the sky, they're going to light up an area, where the LED is more of a directional light.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
So I have a few.
Yes.
You had mentioned the monitoring traffic accidents for a year.
Yes.
If it increases. How do you set that baseline?
Well, that's a voluntary position that I'm willing to take, but it was part of what the pilot program required. We actually were the first to get a digital up and running under the pilot program with the state, and we had to do a preliminary traffic study, present existing conditions, and then one 30 days after, and then one 12 months.
Okay.
So it was a 30-day and a 12-month, and only then were you would they make their determination.
Okay.
So it was determined that there was no incidents, and I'm prepared to do that if you'd like. It's a cost, but I figure if you're gonna ask me to take the thing down, I'm gonna want to do that anyway to say, well, you have really no basis for this. So I'd want that just to protect myself.
All right. So the baseline would be set through, I'm assuming, DOT statistics?
Yeah, it would be state police. I'd probably, I don't know which, probably a Foxborough Barracks, ask for some traffic data,
Okay.
and just start there. That's how it was done before. It's been a while. It's been probably 12 years since the pilot program started. So I think that's how we did it. Just ask for the data for that stretch.
Okay. And would we negotiate what the acceptable increase would be for that?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that I don't know. Yeah, I would say that, as long as it's reasonable, I wouldn't have any problem with it.
Okay. And that would end up in the mitigation
Yeah,
agreement?
we could make an amendment or an addendum to the mitigation agreement, no problem.
Okay. And then in section 1.1, it says, regarding the payments, including without limitation permits and approvals. So if any of the boards put a limit on either the height of the billboard or the spacing, is that then invalidate that clause?
Well, I believe we sort of know what we have to do from the state standpoint, and we're obviously placing the locations in where we know they're going to, where we know they comply with the state already. So I don't anticipate any issues there. height, I mean, you have the Mansfield Airport. I don't know if there's any FAA issues that might arise. I don't think so. I think we chose this site specifically for the low tree line that abuts 495, so that we can make the height as low as possible. So, I kind of forgot what you were saying.
It's just the phrase "without limitation." For me, that opens it up, that if any limitations get put on to the site or the spacing, then does that play into the payments going back?
No, that won't.
John, what is the location that you're looking at right now, can you say?
It's, I think it's 176 South Washington. It's the Paradigm
202.
Properties.
202 South Washington, is it?
I don't know if that's the right one. I think it's, what did I give you, Mike? That
It's 176.
176 South Washington.
There's
That's
3 parcels.
Yeah, there's 3 parcels. That whole stretch would be suitable, but that one, because of the really low tree line along 495, is ideal. But I don't have them officially secured. There's, a memorandum of understanding that we've hammered out, still not signed, but I have a level of confidence that we're, the numbers are worked out, and that those will be the sites, 1 or 2, that we're going to put forward.
So, can you answer it, because I can't tell from this, how many residences are within 1,000?
I think there's one resident, 1,600 feet.
Yeah, there's really no effect at all to any
Yeah,
residents.
it's all
within
commercial.
Within the cone, the 750 feet, but if you look straight across, there's a house, like John said, probably about 1,600 feet away through the woods.
Across the highway?
Yeah, on the other side of the highway.
And then there's one in the back left that's about 1,600 feet away. There's no remotely close abutters. It's significantly.
That looks like a house with a pool.
Yeah, it looks like there's a house just outside the 1,000-foot line, if we're reading that right.
That's commercial property. I think that's the
Ridge Rigger?
Lopes.
Ridge Rigger.
Ridge Riggers. That was a location that we were looking at also. So that's commercial property there.
Yeah, the house is historic. It was there before there used to be a family that ran a business there.
No, fine. So, 2 quick questions. The repeater that you mentioned, is that in the mitigation agreement now?
It is.
Allowing us the use of that?
I don't know. I don't
didn't
think it
see
is. I don't think it is.
Is that something that can be added?
Without a doubt, no problem.
And the other thing, should there be complaints of a nuisance from the brightness? Are there other options? Like I know you said it automatically dims at dark. Are there other options as well to reduce that? If there's a resident that's seeing
Yeah,
at night?
we could further dim it.
Yeah, those thresholds are adjustable within the software, where you can dim it down more than what it is.
And can you put some language to that in the agreement as well?
Yes.
And certainly I would think that, well, 2 questions. I don't know in respect to time limit, but I don't know if that area can be area within the 1,500 feet. If it's, like, if somebody could sell it and somebody could build another property on it, if there's anything that we need to consider from that perspective?
I believe most of the property that's within the 1,500 feet is wet.
Okay.
I can't swear to it, but I believe that it's mostly wetlands, and that's why it hasn't been developed.
Okay. Maybe we can take that away and look.
The Bodekin Road site. Yeah. There are a lot of wetlands.
It was Mazda.
See? I'm almost as good as you. Any other questions? Does anyone in the audience have any questions? I'm reaching out and nobody's helping me.
So just for my clarification, additional language in the mitigation agreement, addendums, amendments, whatever we'll call them, will be the repeater, a preliminary traffic study, a light adjustment
if needed.
Condition. Anything else that?
That covers it.
I think that was all that was
I think that was it.
asked. If not, I'm sure we'll let you know.
Okay.
Yes.
Real quick, for how long is this? Done. Going good.
How long is this?
How long is what?
Oh,
I think it was the vacuum.
How long is the mitigation grant for?
I was just wondering how long, we get $600,000 or $300 per sign, and then how long are those signs there? Like,
Only 100 years.
only 100, right, but, you know.
I
That's a good
understand.
question. And Mike, you mentioned something about tax from the signs ongoing. So what does that look like?
How much the tax is on the sign?
Yeah, you mentioned something there early
Yeah,
on.
personal property
It'll-
is how
yeah, it'll be
we would
taxed
get taxed
from
by
the
the town.
assessors.
Probably the cost of the structure. And, yeah, would be the lump sum payment. And, you know, obviously the ongoing taxes and the maintenance of the repeater.
Mhm. But in the answer to the how long, it's indefinite.
The agreement that I have is basically 33 years with two 33-year options, bringing it to a 99-year.
When I said 100 years, I wasn't far off, wasn't I?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So if it's 33 years with two 33-year options, do we get to, after 33 years, do we have to say?
But that's my
Or is it an
agreement with the
automatic?
property owners.
Oh, that's your agreement with the
Yeah,
property owner.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Pending agreement.
Who are the property owners?
Paradigm Property Group, big firm in Boston. They own a lot of commercial real estate.
Thank you.
Okay. No,
I'm sorry, can I just ask, because I don't know much about this. In respect to the sign, should there be any sort of damage or rusting is probably not the right word. I'm sure you have a better word for it. But if there's any sort of negative impact, like is there a plan that you guys would come out and replace or?
Oh, yeah. There would be, I mean,
Decommission
that's
or
in our
whatever.
best interest to make sure that things working properly every day. And,
Okay.
I mean, that's something you don't have to worry, you won't have to call us on that stuff.
Can we get it in the agreement?
Yes, yes.
yeah, if it's not working, you don't get paid, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
Do we? No, just kidding.
Yes, we do. Anything else?
Thank you for the time.
Thank you. And
Did you ask a question?
I've asked, but nobody seems to be helping me. So they're ignoring me back there. Like the previous one, I'd like to take this under advisement, and we can vote on it possibly next meeting.
And you're at the planning
14th.
board on the 14th.
Okay. So Chair will entertain a motion to take this under advisement until our next meeting.
That's so moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
so the planning board's the 14th, our next meeting is the 14th.
correct.
Can we just get a response back from the planning board on what their take?
The day of the town meeting. Because they'll be meeting on the 14th,
And we have a time.
and it's on the town meeting warrant for the 15th, so when you meet before town meeting,
Oh,
Oh,
right. Okay.
all those dates just jumbling up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next item is review and/or vote on ballot question for the June 18th, 2019 special election.
Yes.
Units.
At your April 4th meeting, you voted to hold an election on June 18th, and this is the ballot question. It says, shall the town of Norton be allowed to exempt from the limits of Proposition 2.5, so-called, the amount of $25,700,000 for the purpose of planning, design, construction, furnishing, and equipping of a municipal center and senior/community center, the project, which project shall include costs for professional services such as design, contract administration, professional and owner's project management, as well as site preparation and demolition and all other incidental and related costs. And then there'll be 2 squares, 1 yes, 1 no.
On this subject, because of feedback I've gotten, I asked Mr. Units earlier today to find out if the question is defeated at the special town meeting, if we had to hold the election, and the question is being posed to town council. I don't have the answer this evening. So it seems to me that if it fails at town meeting, it wouldn't make sense to hold the election unless we're forced to. So.
Can I ask an additional question on that?
Yes.
Is it, in light of what I guess I'll just term as public outcry, is it something that we can discuss to postpone the meeting to a later date so that there's more time for information sessions and more questions? Because I'd personally like to hear from the building committee on this prior to a town meeting. I mean, it's we're already May 2nd, so it's pretty close. I mean, I don't know if that's something that we can do, but.
Well, that town meeting's not till June.
Right.
So
That's 6 weeks.
they could come to the May 16th.
We could ask them to come to the May 16th Selectmen's meeting to discuss it at that time if you'd like.
But is it possible to delay the special election? Or is that locked in no matter what at this point?
We've already called it. Right now, I mean, I'm only one person. I would feel more comfortable not playing with the dates right now. And I'd like to get the question answered of if it doesn't make it through town meeting, do we have, because it's my understanding that town meeting is relatively inexpensive, where if we go to an election, you're talking just shy of probably $10,000. Mm-hmm. And so if we can get one thing out of the way and we find out it's positive or negative, then I think it would be incumbent on us to make a decision that it doesn't make sense to spend $10,000 at town meeting shut down. But like I said, it's something that whenever we get into legal things, I defer to the lawyers, and I usually don't agree with them anyways, but but at least that's my feeling, but I'm only one member. It's not a dictatorship, although I do have the hammer.
Right.
So, I mean, I would say that we should at least hear from the building committee and get their feel on it and see what they could do. I mean, I've had some questions myself about the expense. I definitely feel that we need both buildings, but I understand where people are coming from, and I want to do what's best, and I don't want to waste everybody's time and money. But I want to give the building committee that spent a lot of their time to put this plan together and propose it. I feel that I'd be more comfortable making a decision like that with them present.
So I agree with that. I think my concern is that, May 16th comes, we're a couple weeks from the meeting. Certainly in its current form, I'll be outright to say I wouldn't support it. I don't know what that means to not have the full support of the Board of Selectmen behind it, but I just think that there are questions that we will probably pose to them that they may not be able to answer within 2 weeks. And I agree with you. These are folks who volunteered their time. They did a lot of hard work on this. I just feel like personally for myself and from what I've heard from other people that we don't have enough information on this. And cost is, one of the main factors, but I have other concerns as well.
They do have the open house on the 9th, so if you have questions that you could get to them on the 9th, then they could address on the 16th
if you have questions, put them together and we can forward them to them. It's not like we have to not communicate with them until the 16th.
I think that's a good idea.
We just can't deliberate before the 16th.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that
At least they can
you
come
as a
prepared
person
with potential answers.
You can, as a member of the Board of Selectmen, can send questions. Ms. Steele can send questions. And hopefully, we're not all asking the same question, but that way
Can we submit our questions to you and then you compile them on the board's behalf?
I'm going to pass the buck, submit them to Mr. Units. I'm technologically inept, and I'll probably lose them someplace.
I mean, I'm fine compiling for the selectmen if needed.
Well, I mean, it's
I'm
just,
fine with that.
it's just that I don't want to get into trouble with open meeting laws.
Okay.
And I'd rather
Yep.
each person submit their questions, then Mr. Units or Jen Reed can edit them so that they're not redundant, and we could forward them to the building committee so they'd be prepared with what we're looking at. I think that's fair to them and to us.
Sure.
So, anyone else? Yes, Peter.
Yes, I agree, and the building committee has worked hard to put this project together, and it is time we are one community, and we need to move this project forward because this town hall is falling apart, along with the senior center, and it's not safe, so it's time that we move this project forward and put yes on the project.
Thank you, Peter.
Wait.
Can I add something?
Yes.
To that, because Peter, actually, you brought an idea to mind. So given that we heard a lot of comments about, that the town hall could be shut down if the state came in and looked at it, I think it's our responsibility to start thinking about what if something happened to the town hall and having a plan. So I guess, Mike, I don't know if you know, is there a contingency plan that should this building be inaccessible, that we're going to be able to provide essential services somewhere else within the town?
Not right now, nothing that we've looked at now.
Okay, so I don't know how this works process-wise, but I'd like to look into that and have others look into it as well, so we have a plan. Regardless of what happens with building a new one, I mean, we're still looking out, 5-10 years. So I think it's just responsible for us to make sure that should something happen, that we're able to pick up the operation somewhere else. So I'd ask for your advice on how we'd go about coordinating something like that, but I can certainly take the lead.
Yeah, I mean, we could put together a subcommittee, 2 people, that way they wouldn't have a quorum. And they could investigate locations, places that we could possibly, if we had to, rent or lease on a short-term basis.
It might not even be that. It might be something that we already have internally.
Yeah, and I'm running through my head, and other than small fire stations and the highway garage, I can't think of, other than schools, I can't think of anything that would be appropriate. So, but, I mean, if you would like to head up a subcommittee on that, I would be glad to dub you chairman of that subcommittee.
Hit me with the gavel.
After. But anyone else who feels like they'd like to get involved in that, they can let me know. You don't have to put your head in the noose quite yet. Okay, or reach out to Renee and let her know that you'd like to, and then just kind of shoot me a email so that I'm in the loop,
Okay, thank you.
okay? Okay, old business. We're going to review and/or vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Can I,
yeah, please.
can I sit down for this?
You-
instead of
it-
standing? Bill Rotundi, 17 Reservoir Street, also FinCom Chairman. My concern, and I've expressed this numerous times to Mike, is that it's my belief we need to be able to project out over the years income and expense. So I'm hearing a lot of things here tonight about, ooh, that's going to be 300,000, ooh, that's going to be 500,000, ooh, that's going to, this is going to cost you 25 million. We should be able to show that to the townspeople and how it's going to impact them. And I agree, a month to get that information out, it's going to go down in defeat. And it's something we should have. We're a big enough community, we have a big enough budget that to just be winging it is a disservice at this point. My personal opinion, and I think other members of the FinCom are kind of have the same concern. But this is something that has to come from the town offices.
Uh-huh.
You guys see the budget, you guys see the income, to get together with the auditors and to put a program together that says, ooh, you're going to get 500,000. What does that do? Ooh, next year, you've just approved contracts with 6% raises. What's that going to do? We need that information. There's no excuse anymore that we don't get it. And to make a presentation to the town to say we want a $25 million override, they're going to be asking.
I wish I could disagree with you, but everything you say makes perfect financial sense, and that's evidently why the town of Norton has never done that.
So how do we make it happen? Sounds like you may be volunteering to assist.
Well, I'll do what I can, but to get a software program and to get the auditors to kind of help you initially build it, that's, the accounting department, town manager, and the auditors. To maintain it, maybe FinCom can take that challenge. But to initially build it, that's not us.
Mr. Eunice, do we have anything along that line of, like, future financial planning, I guess?
We don't have a program that can do that, no. It's just, the projections are pretty simple. We go up 2.5, we project our new growth, we keep our budgets increasing in the 3% range, and that's all we can project over 5 years. We can't project that, well, if this building gets built,
But you can't.
well, how do we do that? If we don't know buildings
But once you approve it, well,
once you approve it, yes,
but even before that, if you're projecting it out to say, this is what we want to do, I, as a taxpayer, is going to say, I'm going to ask you, well, what's that going to do to me?
I'm not, Bill,
should be able to do that.
I'm not talking about the town hall building. I'm talking about revenue.
I'm talking about anything.
I'm talking about revenue. We can look at, we have our new growth figure here. We'll average it out over 5 years. And we'll say, okay, this is our new growth over five. It's simple. That's our new growth over 5 years. This is a 2.5.
But do we
We're going to
show
go
it?
up this much each year.
Do we show it? Because I don't get it. And as part of FinCom, we should have it.
Okay, but we can do it, but if you look at, Mansfield's a good example. One time I went on, I looked, they had a 5-year projection. Everything was flat for 5 years. Nothing changed. So,
Mike, how do you calculate the 2.5 increase? I mean, is that just a number that you have, or is that a number that, like, from, bringing in?
our levy, we have our levy limit, and that can go up 2.5% each year. The assessors will calculate that, and they add it. So we know what the 2.5 increase will be roughly over the next 5 years, if we go 5 years. And we can take an average of our new growth over 5 years. But what it's going to tell you is...
It's going to tell me more than I know now.
It's going to tell you
sorry.
budgets would have to, in order to meet those, unless something happens where you get a new building and that gives you a lot of new growth, you're going to have to live within 3%.
Mr. Chairman, so I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea because even if it's flat, like you said, right, at least there's something out there, right, and that we're looking at it every year. But the other thing is, we talked tonight about a couple projects that could bring money in, so we would actually be adjusting, right, for the new revenue. So it actually would change year to year based on the new revenue. So based on the new revenue we bring in this year, it's going to affect our budget for next year, right?
Right.
So in your mind, I get what you're saying. It's simple. I've got 2.5. But, for the rest of us and the FinCom, when we're trying to figure out, where's this money coming from, how's it coming in, I think even if it's just an exercise every year at budget time, that we review last year's budget, what we plan on this year, and based on what we have right now for the next, 2 or 3 years, just put it out there. I don't think it hurts to get that out there because I think it'll start some communication, and I think maybe we might get a better handle on our finances.
I mean, I'll do it very simplistically. In a year, not this upcoming budget, but the one after, 2021, we're going to save $500,000 because we're regionalizing a department.
Mm-hmm.
So on the initially, I'm thinking to myself, oh man, $500,000, that's going to be great. Contracts, insurance, all this stuff that I'm not accounting for. At the end of the day, how much am I really going to get? Again, we should be able to see that. It's not going to be $400,000, $500,000 in a year. It's going to be a whole lot less.
Right, of spendable cash, because it's already committed to pay increases, and that's why I've always said that Proposition 2.5 was doomed from the beginning, because it didn't take into account health insurance alone.
Right. So I know I've kind of rambled, but I figured this was the opportunity to kind of express what I believe is some of FinCom's concerns.
Well, I agree, and I'm just going to mention, having had conversations, especially with Renee Dealey, and I spoke with Mr. Units before the meeting tonight, for the Board of Selectmen to get a better grasp on things. I think starting in our next financial cycle, we're going to try to have a Selectmen's subcommittee on the budget, so that we can get a little more involved and understand it ourselves, and have the subcommittee report back to us. And that way there, we might be able to, I mean, who knows, we might actually find an answer to save a little bit here, but it's a step in the right direction, and I think this is a deal for opening my eyes a little bit to that fact. But, I mean, we can ask what it would take from, you know, talking maybe to the accountant or actually the Scanlon, the auditor. I mean, he's already said just to reach out to him, so maybe we could reach out to him to see what it would take to do that kind of a planning. I mean, he might have the software that we could just plug our figures into. And if it's just it might be another report, but it might be enough to help the Finance Committee in their deliberations and be another tool that we could use.
Yep.
So could we at least reach out to Scanlon just to find out if they could offer such a service?
It would be appreciated. And just one last thing. I think it was a week ago, you know, I reached out internally to the FinCom and asked that at every one of these meetings, at least one of us to be here. You know, whether it's to answer a question, whether it's just to bring back information to us, you know,
I thought it was
just
my-
to keep the communication.
And I thought it was my magnetic personality that brought everybody out.
And that was it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Laura Parker. Just to piggyback on Bill's comment, I think while it would be critical for FinCom to have that type of data in terms of projections, as a taxpayer, I would also like to know in terms of if you're presenting a new debt exclusion to me, I would like to see a 10-year projection of when the existing debt exclusions come off, when I know my taxes may go down a little bit, how much they may increase with a new debt exclusion. A projection would be very helpful from a taxpayer standpoint, and I think it would go a long way in getting
The building.
maybe some more approval.
Yeah, the building committee has all that information.
Great, thank you.
Actually, I might have it with me. If I remember to bring it, I'll give it to you. You can.
That's on one item, right? That's
Right, I mean, going forward, we should
That's
be able to
the
ask that.
override, which.
Yeah, but isn't there,
Oh, I know.
something now that we're paying that is off in 2 years? The high school?
Just where we could kind of see the overall.
Her question was
debt.
how this debt exclusion works, like the high school debt exclusion, part of it's done in 10 years, and part of it's on until like 2034 or something like that. I know the building committee has all that information.
I mean, it'd be nice, sorry.
I don't have it with me, but.
That's okay. No, I appreciate it. I just think.
It is available, though, because Mr. Units had a sheet like that made up for us, if it wasn't last week, or last meeting, the meeting before. So that information is available, and if I can't find it, we'll have Mr. Units have that printed up again. And
Thank you.
just
I
let
appreciate it.
anyone take one if they'd like it.
Thank you.
So rather than printing it up, is that something that we could put online, on, like the assessor's page, like a table of the debt exclusions with the, you know, amount per 100,000 assessed or 1,000 assessed, and the expiration date, just again, to Laura's point, be able to have that.
Yep, we have that.
Yes.
Can I just ask one more question?
No. Come on up.
How is, without having this information, how are contracts negotiated with the teachers, with the town manager, with the DPW? If you're negotiating a 3-year contract and you don't know what your budget is for 3 years out, how do you negotiate that? How is that currently being done? I mean, you could say, I'm saying, we're going to give the teachers a 5% raise over 5 years. You have no numbers 5 years, so how could you promise money you don't know that you're going to have? I mean, I'm from the business world, so I'm not sure how that works. We just hope it's there. The FinCom, you don't have those numbers?
I answer your question? Well, the FinCom's not involved in negotiations. I do the negotiations for the town, and I assume the superintendent for the schools. And we know we have our 2.5, so we try and, when we do our negotiations, we know we don't want contracts going up more than 2%. And as far as what the school negotiates, that's...
So the school doesn't call you and say, hey, Mike, we're going to need 10% over the next 5 years for the teachers?
They don't.
Not to interject too much.
No, you're...
But wasn't that an issue the other night?
I'll leave it to you.
No, seriously, wasn't that an issue at the FinCom meeting on Monday night where one side was proven to be given 5-6% and the other side given 2%? So there seemed to be a disconnect. At the end of the day, if our budget is X, how one can give 6 and the other one's staying to 2.
Right, and
My point exactly.
in answer to his question, when they're negotiating their contracts, I assume that they're negotiating based on what the historical increase is in their budget, and they don't go over that, and they're figuring out some way that they can fund their raises, but they don't call me to ask me about their contracts.
To me, it always circles back to if there was a projection and whoever, was in the school committee, who's ever at the superintendent at the time, here's what we can afford. If you want to go above and beyond that, then no offense, don't come crying to us when...
Well, that is how negotiations work. That's exactly how they work.
There seemed to be a little disconnect in information on Monday.
What are you getting at, disconnect in information?
I'm just saying, I was being attacked as the chairman for questioning how they negotiate. And I wasn't even trying to do it school-specific.
Yeah.
But I was being attacked. And I'm like, if you guys don't have this information, I don't know how you negotiate.
Mr. Chairman, can we table this until the superintendent can be present so that he can speak to this? I mean, I don't think we should.
Yeah,
I heard assumptions a couple times.
Yeah. I think we're in beyond the realm of our conversation and beyond what we can handle or correct tonight anyways. We agreed to send a letter of, or a request to Scanlon, the auditing company, to see if they can help us out with projections, to see if they might already possess the hardware, software to do these projections, and then maybe for a fee, it could be an added service that they do for us. So hopefully it'll be a step in the right direction.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. On to the warrant. Town meeting warrant. Last, you finished through Article 7. And so Article 8 is the operating budget. And the Finance Committee recommended an operating budget $58,639,830. And I'll just give you let me hold off on that one until a description of breakdown of the budget. So the fixed and shared expenses are 24.896% of the budget, or $14,598,847. The balance of general government accounts, $12,762,068, or 21.763%. Fixed general government expenses, $448,655, or 0.765%. And miscellaneous town offices and boards, $5,210. .009%. The Norton Public Schools, $29,622,648, or 50.516% of the budget. And Southeastern Regional and Bristol Agricultural, $1,202,000, or 2.05% of the budget. And just to show you what makes up some of those, so fixed and shared is maturing debt, interest, employee benefits, unemployment compensation, and miscellaneous expenses, other insurances. And the general government includes all those departments, Board of Selectmen, Town Manager, Town Accountant, Assessors, Treasurer Collector, Data Processing, Town Clerk, Conservation Commission, Planning Board, Municipal Building and Maintenance, the Police, obviously, Fire, Emergency Medical, Emergency Planning, Inspection, Communications Center, Animal Control, Highway, Snow Removal, Board of Health, Public Health Nurse, Council on Aging, Veterans Agent, Library, Recreation, the Reserve Fund, Legal Services, Tax Title Foreclosure, Elections, Southeastern Regional Planning and Economic Development, the Town Report, Postage for all town departments, Sailor Weights and Measures, Street Lighting, Sanitary Landfill, the Finance Committee, the Web Committee, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Industrial Development Commission, the Tree Warden, Historical Commission, Memorial and Vets Day, and Historical District Commission. And just to show you what's in the fixed and shared. We will, it's there. So the fixed and shared is the maturing debt, the interest, employee benefits, which is retirement, health insurance, and retiree health insurance, unemployment, fuel expenses, and charges and expenditures, which are all the other insurances, workers' comp, and liability insurance, property and casualty. So, yes.
Mike, I'm sorry, before you
Yep.
come, those three slides were actually kind of interesting, and I think, for, especially the pie chart.
Yep.
So, and I mean, it's just a fact of life. A lot of people come to town meeting, and it's the first time they see a lot of this information. Is there any reason why we couldn't get those 3 pages printed down as an attachment to the budget?
For the town meeting?
For the town meeting?
Sure.
Because I just feel like, you know, when you say it's 14%, people, but when they see a pie sheet like
Yeah.
that, or shared, I mean, really, I didn't know what a fixed and shared expense was before I got in this, you know, so
Yeah.
for the, you know, people that are trying to do the best and be involved, if we made it easy for them at town meeting,
Okay.
I don't know if that would be helpful.
Yeah, we could
People?
have those printed up so they're in color and,
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Can we make it available online?
yeah.
I would say, is there any reason why we couldn't have the entire packet available online prior to the meeting?
I know that the warrant will be online, so we could put the budget, other than that everyone will have online the warrant, the special town meeting warrant, they'll all be online.
Yeah, if the budget could be added,
Yeah.
it'd be helpful ahead of time.
Yeah, I remember last year when we were going through, I literally was trying to flip through before the next item was coming up just to see what it was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And in your packet, you have the estimated operating and revenue and expenditures, just so you can see our base tax levy, the increment, which is $914,436. Our new growth estimate of $745. The debt exclusion for the high school project, $1,077,068. So we have a total to be raised and appropriated of $39,313,963. And down the bottom, you can see the breakdown, like I just showed you, the fixed and shared, Southeastern Regional, Bristol Agricultural, General Government, and the schools.
Anyone have any questions? I know it's a lot to take in.
Mike, I know I should know this, but,
Sure.
sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
Mike, where's the charter school?
Where is charter school?
Yeah, where is it?
It's in the cherry sheet, so down the bottom,
Oh, I got it right here.
charter school tuition assessments,
Yeah. Thank you.
and also school choice tuition assessments. So those are for kids from Norton that go out either to a charter school or a school choice school somewhere else.
Mike, would it be possible to get a copy of the budget in Excel?
Well, we can send you, I don't know if we'd send, why would you need it in Excel?
Just to look at percentages and whatnot and let the computer do the work rather than my calculator.
Okay. We generally don't send out our formulas because we don't want them, we don't put them online, you know. But I can get that. Any questions on the budget?
Any other questions? Are we still trying to digest?
Yeah, can I reserve the right to
No,
come back?
no. Okay, why don't we, let's move on to something else.
Okay.
Just to let everybody try to digest what their
budget is
looking at on the budget.
All right, let's
before
go.
we vote on it.
Article 9 is capital improvements appropriation. We usually put money in the fall, so the Finance Committee voted no action on that.
If that's all right, Chair will entertain a motion to take no action on Article 9, capital improvement appropriations.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no action.
Article 14 is put on by the Planning Board, and this is to do a master plan update. Our master plan hasn't been updated since 1989, I believe it is. And the master plan update itself, the town planner, economic development director estimates will be $100,000, but we've obtained a grant through our community compact agreement of $30,000, and then Serped has agreed to provide us with $20,000 this fiscal year and $20,000 next fiscal year. So the balance would be $30,000, and the Finance Committee voted to recommend $30,000 to be raised and appropriated for this article.
Any questions?
I think it's a great idea.
Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion to recommend Article 14 master plan update with a balance of $30,000.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Article 15 is the stretch energy code. So this is our last step in order to become a green community. And the building commissioner has done a good job, had a public meeting on this and then also on cable, and did a good job explaining to the Finance Committee. This would, the stretch energy code, they always call it that because it used to be a stretch. But as energy requirements have gotten stronger and stronger, it's not that much of a stretch anymore to build to these standards. There are very few communities that have not become green communities in Massachusetts now. Bristol County has been lagging behind the rest of the state, but this isn't something that is as much as a stretch as it used to be. And this would just put requirements on new construction, not on if you're doing remodeling your house. You know, you're not going to have to all of a sudden revamp your whole house to the new stretch energy code. And the Finance Committee did vote to recommend this.
Just to be completely upfront with everyone, I'm aware of this because one of my son-in-laws actually has his own company that rates houses. And I've learned a lot through him about this stretch energy codes, and usually the fee that he charges to do it through grants and rebates, you can pay him and still come out a couple $1,000s ahead. And it only is required on new construction, and I can pretty much say that because of his location, I feel confident being able to vote on this because he won't be probably doing anything in Norton because we have too few houses for him to travel this far. But like Mr. Units mentioned, the building codes have changed so dramatically over the years that the amount of insulation you need and the way like windows are constructed and things like that, that just if you build the house properly, chances are, unless you made a mistake someplace, you're going to meet the requirements of the stretch code anyways. And sometimes the auditors can actually find places where maybe a builder has gone a little bit overboard and can have you back off a little bit just to make it so the house breathes better. So I personally am in favor of this only because of the knowledge I've gained through him. So that being said, unless anyone has any questions, Chair will entertain a motion to recommend Article 15, the Stretch Energy Code adoption.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
The next article would be Article 20. This is a personnel bylaw amendment, two items in here. The first one is we are looking to, with the new water treatment plant coming online this summer, we're looking to hire an assistant water and sewer superintendent with water treatment experience. And the salary range, this is a position that hasn't been filled in years, and so the salary range has never been adjusted, the lower end definitely. So the salary range was only $53,000 to $70,000. This would change that to $73,000 to $80,000. And also, most of the contracts, all the contracts now, the union contracts, someone's not eligible for a week's vacation until a year. But the provision that is in all the union contracts now is you only earn 1 week's vacation, and you can use that after a year. This would allow you to use it after 6 months, but you don't earn another week's vacation. You still only get that 1 week's vacation, but you can use it after 6 months if you want. I mean, a year is a long time for someone to go with no time off.
What sort of credentials does a assistant water and sewer superintendent?
They have to be licensed to be a water treatment license and they have to have experience working in a water treatment plant.
How much experience?
What's that?
How much experience? 5 to 7 years?
You'd want someone, right, with at least 5 years experience in the water treatment field.
What level of license do they need? Is it a 1, 2?
They would have to have in order to be a treatment operator, and they would have to have the top license.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just one more, and I may have missed this, I'm sorry. How did you come up with the 73 to 80,000 range?
Well, one, looking at what the range is of our employees, so whoever this is obviously has to make more than employees, and then looking at towns around us to see what comparable salaries were.
Anything else?
Are we
Yes.
taking them separately, or are we voting them together?
The entire article, I would say.
So then I have a question on number 2.
Okay.
So I actually kind of have an issue with it, because 1 year is kind of in line with the business world, but also after 6 months, if they quit in month 7, we bought them a vacation, right?
Yep.
I mean, I just don't see that. This is my personal opinion.
I was thinking the same thing. Is there language in this? It says if they separate within that year period, that they pay back the
No,
time?
And is this for union or non-union?
non-union.
Oh.
What are they eligible for in total for a year service?
For a year, they don't get any vacation the first year. They have to work a year, and then they get a week.
But they,
Okay.
oh, they don't accumulate 2 weeks the first year?
No.
Oh,
And then I'd have to look. I don't know when they go to 2 weeks, whether it's after 2 years or 3 years.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I wouldn't be opposed, well, this is just my opinion. If we did, after 6 months, you're eligible for 2.5 days or 3 days, something like that. I know we've done that at my place of employment before. But if I'm the only one that has an issue with it, and
No, I agree. If there's no stipulation that, after 6 months, they can take a week and then leave.
yeah.
Well, that would be a good question, because the way everyone's vacation works here, you earn your vacation.
Right.
So
So can they earn it at a different cycle than a year? A
They-
week per year? Could
they-
they earn it like?
So someone would be earning, that would be the question I'll ask the town accountant. So if someone working, say someone has 4 weeks vacation and they leave on July 10th, they're going to get paid out 4 weeks vacation because they earned it the year before.
right, so that's,
So if someone, I'll have to find out, if someone works here 6 months, they've
They
earned
earn-
half their,
that's why, to me, at first I assumed you got 2 weeks vacation. And I know every place that I've worked, I accrue vacation time on a weekly basis,
Right.
depending on how many weeks I get a year. So, and if you leave or you're terminated, you usually have to buy back that time.
Right.
So whether they took it and left, or they just left, we'd still be on the hook to pay them.
Could we change the language to eligible to use earned vacation time after 6 months? Take the fixed 1 week period off. So if they accrue it, a week a year or something like that, then yeah, at 6 months they get 2.5 days, or that way it follows whatever accrual schedule they have.
Mr. Chairman, if they're earning it anyways, why do we even have to have the language? If they're earning it, why can't they just?
They're earning it, but they aren't allowed to use it, I guess. Is that hourly personnel, or is that exempt, non-exempt, trying to think, exempt employees?
anyone that's under the wage and salary plan. So, everyone, the selectman secretary, Michelle, water and sewer superintendent, highway superintendent, yeah,
No, 'cause
trying to think, everyone that's in that list.
There's usually a difference on rules of vacation and sick time, whether you're hourly or salaried. And that's what I was wondering is this in line with the salaried personnel? Because this person, to me, is more of a professional, because he's got responsibilities and supervisory position. So I was just wondering if that was more in line with that type of position, or...
What I'll do, I'll look at get your information from the union contracts, what they have, so you can see that.
Okay, just for uniformity.
Yep.
Yeah, and if there's a chance that we can change that where they can take it as they accrue it, I mean, versus waiting, if you have to work a year to take a week.
Yeah, it's kind of a long...
I don't know what kind of downstream impact that would have overall, but I think there's
Yeah.
probably something better we could do.
And
We don't have that many first-year employees in those positions.
exactly, and one of the reasons it concerns me is we have a hard enough time attracting, the more supervisory type individuals, because we usually are on the lower end of the pay scales. And I'd hate to think that just the prospect of not being able to take a vacation week for an entire year would mean that we'd lose out on a good employee.
Right.
So there's two ways of looking at it. I don't like to pay somebody who's going to walk out the door, but I also want to get the person in the door in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But why don't we take Article 20 under advisement and wait for Mike to get back to us?
All right, Article 21, OPEB funding. Same as the capital, we generally wait until the fall to put money in OPEB, and the Finance Committee voted no action on this article.
Are there any questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to take no action on the OPEB funding, Article 21.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the same with stabilization. The Finance Committee voted no action.
Chair will entertain a motion to take no action on stability fund funding.
So moved.
Second.
All those,
Aye. Is that what he said?
I'm sorry?
Somebody coughed.
All right, special town meeting.
Okay.
Article 2, separation expense. We don't need any money this year for this current fiscal year, so
For a long time, hasn't it?
the Finance Committee voted no action.
Any questions? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to take no action on Article 2, separation expenses.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Article 3, the Finance Committee voted to recommend Article 3 with $203,763 coming out of free cash. So this will cover our snow and ice deficit of $43,963. The elections, $9,800, and the school department, $150,000. And they think they may be lowering that, but it was at $200,000. They've been reviewing things and brought it down to $150, and they're still reviewing, and see if we get anything else before the night of the town meeting. But right now, it's $203,763. And Keith did a great job this year. We only spent, with the 80,000 plus the 43,963, so we didn't, it was a nice, easy winter.
And I don't know if Renee and Jack are aware that snow removal is the only item that we can overspend on. And we never put in too much because the state requires you to never put in less than you did the prior year. So if we were to put in 200,000, say, we'd be stuck with that number going forward. And that 150,000 for the school, that was unforeseen special education, wasn't it?
Right.
If I remember.
No, it was substitute.
Substitute teacher?
Teachers, they have a lot of people out on maternity this year.
Okay. Okay, there's no other questions?
Just one, is the elections for the April election?
For the June election.
So what, Mr. Chairman, what happens if we don't have it? It just stays on the book until next year?
Right.
Yes.
Free cash the following
Yeah.
year. If we don't, anything that general government doesn't use, it just stays on the books, then the following year it becomes free cash. Any other questions? Chair will entertain a motion to recommend the fiscal year 19 operating budget supplement, Article 3, for $203,763 coming from free cash.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
All right, to save you some time, how about Article 4, 5, 6, and 7? The Finance Committee voted no action on all four.
Chair will entertain a motion to take no action on Articles 4, 5, 6, and 7.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And Article 8 is the article to authorize the Board of Selectmen to negotiate a 20-year pilot agreement with, for the solar development on Plain Street, and the Finance Committee voted to recommend.
Any questions?
Would we vote on this if we
It-
put it
yeah,
under advisement
well, it's authorization to,
It's authorization for us to do
for
it.
us to do it?
Doesn't mean that we're doing it.
Okay.
So anytime we can let ourselves do something, even if we don't want to, we just let the power go to your head. So, Chair will entertain a motion to recommend Article 8
So
regarding a pilot for 54 Plain Street.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 9 was put forward by the school department, feeling that they could get a better contract for busing, for example, if it was a longer term, out to maybe 5 years. So this had no limit in it. It would authorize contracts longer than 3 years, but the Finance Committee put a limit not to exceed a 7-year contract, and this is strictly for procurement contracts, not employment contracts. And the superintendent, excuse me, was fine with the 7-year cap, and realizing that probably never would sign a contract greater than 5, but the Finance Committee recommended this.
Any questions?
I just have one.
Yep.
If we think that we would never enter into a contract of greater than 5, then why are we putting a limit on it for 7? Why don't we just put the limit on it for 5?
That was just something that came up at the Finance Committee, the 7-year, and after the superintendent said 5, they didn't change it, right, Bonnie? It's still, stay at the 7.
I can't imagine.
Just a little.
Another
leeway.
one of those, if you're gonna
I'm-
give yourself extra time, give yourself extra time.
Yeah, I can't imagine most of the contracts that we deal with, a vendor wanting to lock themselves into a contract that long. The uncertainties of, especially like with the buses, the uncertainty of leasing, and because usually the bus contracts specify how old the buses can be, the sizes of the buses, And so, just
But
the
this-
uncertainty, I can't imagine them wanting to go this long, but if it gives them the flexibility.
But this isn't specific to just the busing contract, right? It's
No, no, it's
for
any.
any contract?
Yes. But I just use that as an example only because I could think of several factors that I can't imagine why a vendor would lock themselves into.
I can imagine several reasons, because then it's guaranteed cash for 7 years versus 5.
But like I said, they'd have to, probably halfway through that contract, supply the school with new buses, and they wouldn't know what the lease agreement that they would have to sign to get those buses would cost them. That's, I mean, yeah, it's nice to know you got the income, but when you have a variable that you don't have control of, I would feel uncomfortable as a vendor, locking in without putting in a higher bid, I mean, to protect yourself, which would kind of defeat the purpose of going out to a longer bid anyway. But no, if they can save money going with a longer bid, I'm all for it, so personally, I would agree to this. So, Chair will entertain a motion to recommend Article 9, but have it recommended but not to exceed 7 years.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that unanimous?
No. Nay.
Okay. That's 3 and 1.
And the last article on the special is Article 10. This is for the Route 123 corridor improvements. The Finance Committee voted to recommend $45,000 from free cash. We had already appropriated $70,000 towards this. And then when the appraisals came in and all the final appraisals and the review appraisals, the total amount was $115,000. May not go that high. We've already had 2 properties that people have donated, so we just have to have the authorization and have that money because they'll be coming back to you at the end of May to have you sign all the deeds for any of the takings, and they'll all be recorded, and this will go out to bid in July.
And that's to start construction the following year, correct?
Go out in July, it'll be awarded in October, so I don't know, I would doubt they'll start this year unless they can get some of the infrastructure done.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion to recommend Article 10, the Route 123 corridor improvement project easement acquisition.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
My hearing's going, I just want to make sure. And I forgot to look up for the nods. That's unanimous also. Okay, town manager's report.
Okay. Just, how long did you say you're going to be here? The traffic lights at the intersection 123 North and South Worcester. We have a contract with Beta Group to do the 25% design, and also they've put the project, notification to get it on the, it's submitted to roads and highways in the state. So right now, the estimate was that it would be 2023 before this would be funded on the tip. But by us paying for the engineering, which will be paid for out of our Chapter 90 money, if we have the engineering done, and say there's a project that doesn't move forward for some reason that's on the tip, or a project that ends and there's money left over, sometimes these smaller projects can get moved up. So that's the benefit of getting the engineering done.
Anyone have any questions? I know I'm looking forward to this.
Just-
Bonnie is too, right?
Just to give you next Wednesday, a lot of the department heads will be attending this Dementia in Your Community. It's a training about dealing with people that may come into the building that have dementia and working with them. So this is being put on at Mansfield Adult Day Health Center, and that'll be a good program for some of the department heads that are going to attend.
Are all the departments, sorry, Mike.
What?
Are all the departments represented?
I don't know if every department's represented. I know there's a good showing, veterans, council on aging, assessors, treasurers, planning. So most of the departments that deal, I'll be going, and Michelle. So most of the departments that deal with the people on a regular basis all have someone going.
Are fire and police going too?
I don't know if they are. I'm sure they deal with it regularly anyways, probably have their own training in that. If anyone's looking for a job that you know around town, there's 2 jobs available down at Home Market Foods, so they're looking for a second shift warehouse supervisor and also a second shift forklift operator, so. And I did receive notice from the state that I forwarded to Condyne and Planning and Economic Development that the state is looking for 9,400 square feet of usable area for the Department of Early Education and Care for office and training. And this is in Attleboro, Dayton, Easton, Lakeville, Mansfield, Norton, Rainham, or Taunton.
Who is that again?
Department of Early Education and Care. So this is put out by the Executive Office, Administration and Finance, Capital Asset Management. And just to let you know, the first meeting of the Charter Commission will be next Thursday night in this room. And just want to give you a heads up that unfortunately the other night, the Conservation Commission voted to deny Building 5 and 7 of the Blue Star project. It's unfortunate. They were ready to move on this. I know the building permits were in, the plans were in to be reviewed by the building inspector, and police and fire were already looking at them. They were ready to pull a permit. It would be $250,000 for that permit, money that would have been in this year and certified as free cash in the fall, but now there's been a delay. They had a tenant lined up for that largest building, and today they told me they don't have that tenant anymore, so it's a big setback. We've been trying to work with these developers. They've been great for the town. They do anything we want. It's unfortunate that this was voted down.
Do we know why it was denied?
From what I hear, the main reason was there was a portion of one of the buildings that was being built in the floodplain, but the elevation of the building, the floor was not in the floodplain at all, and they were doing compensatory flood storage, so I'd be surprised if DEP doesn't overrule it, but we'll see what happens.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mike, so now it's up to Condyne to go to DEP?
Right.
Or no? Is that what they're going to do?
Yeah. They'll file with DEP on both.
And then DEP will come back and tell the town that it has to be done?
They'll review it, and if they find that if they find that Condyne did everything they have to do as far as flood compensatory storage, and they'll overrule, they can overrule the Conservation Commission and issue the permit.
And do we have a feeling as to whether they really have done that? And that there really wasn't any grounds for us to decline it?
Has that Condyne?
Yeah.
will file the appeal?
No,
Oh.
that they had met all the requirements of DEP and that we just declined it without any finding, or?
Yeah, I was told that our review engineer agreed with the developer, but Conservation didn't agree with the review engineer, I guess, so. But
So-
I haven't had time to talk to Conservation at all about it, and
Maybe, could we get that on our next
Sure.
meeting's agenda? Because the thing with this is, I mean, this has been such a big project for the town, and, $250,000, that represents half of what the schools are looking for this year, right? That's a lot of money for us to walk away from if we're being sticklers to the extreme. I wouldn't expect any, the Conservation Committee to just approve something
Right.
because we want the money in, but if everything's been met and it's going to come back to us, I wonder if they realize how important this project is.
I mean, when that project is built out, it'll be $1 million a year in tax revenue to the town, so.
So
All right,
maybe,
I'll
in
check
fairness to
with them.
Conservation, if we could have them come in 2 weeks to just explain to us why, so that we're not all thinking bad
Right.
thoughts about conservation. Not that I would think bad thoughts about conservation.
You all set? I didn't know if you were going to
This,
mark on.
yeah, where'd I do that? Just, police chief sent over, that, so this says, wondering what the safest place to live in Massachusetts is? Turns out, according to the most recent FBI data, that Norton, Massachusetts takes the crown as the safest place to call home in Massachusetts. It's the kind of place you can wrap up in your Afghan with a book by the fire and not have to worry about anyone bothering you. The city has the third lowest violent crime and the second lowest property crime rate in the state.
Who's 1 and 2?
This is,
I'm sorry?
did you say which one is this?
Yeah, no, who's number 1 and
We're
2
number
for the
one.
third?
We're number one. Oh, I don't know.
It's just they rated two different
Yeah.
things, and we came in second and third on one, but first overall. So. Okay. Selectmen's report and mail. Ms. Steele?
Mr. Chairman, so I do have a couple things, but first, I just wanted to extend a warm welcome and congratulations again to Renee and Jack. Look forward to working with you guys on the board in the coming year. And I absolutely don't want to take anything away from your success tonight, but I'm hoping that you would indulge me for a moment so that I could recognize Bob Salvo and Bob Kimball. The two of them have put in many years of service to the town, and I would like to offer them a heartfelt thanks for everything that they've done for us, not only for what they've done for the town of Norton to make it a better place to live, but also for the respect that they've showed me over the years. It was a pleasure to work with both of them. They took their responsibility to the town of Norton seriously, and we are definitely a better town because of their efforts. So I wanted to extend best wishes to Bob Kimball and Bob Salvo in their next endeavors.
Renee?
Oh, but I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. That was just it. That was going. I got more. I have a whole page. No. So also, I got the emails, addresses for the selectmen. Could you send us all a copy of the open meeting law?
Sure.
Just as a reminder, I don't think we can get that out enough. So if you don't mind sending us that. And then the other thing I had was, Mike, do you know where we are as far as getting a commitment to have all of the other boards televised? Water, is that up to the boards? Water, sewer, conservation?
It's actually up to cable and the staff that they have to film meetings. No one can tell them not to film, so cable can film whoever they want. It's just whatever staff they have to do it.
Oh, can we ask Jason
Mhm.
if he could? I mean, I guess, I think those two committees are two of the most important ones that aren't being.
Water and sewer.
Water, sewer, conservation.
Okay.
And then, of course, we've got the charter,
Mhm.
which I think is,
Yeah, they'll be filming. They'll be.
should be filmed.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing for a future meeting, the Juniper boat ramp. So I know that Bob was working with the state on that, and unfortunately, I don't know where we've ended up as far as, I think they were looking at the Jasmine. Do we have any
Yeah,
feedback from anybody on that?
We haven't since the fall, but I'll follow up with them and see. They were taking surveys around the reservoir to see where they could find a place.
Seems to be a hot topic lately.
Yeah.
So maybe,
Jasmine Gardens would be great. The only problem is the exit out of there is so dangerous that,
yeah.
so I know they were
Get a
looking at.
first look at it,
Yep.
because I feel that it might have gotten.
I'll find out where the state is on that.
Now I'm done.
Okay, now it's your turn, Renee.
Okay, thank you. So I'd certainly like to echo what Mary said about Bob Kimball and Bob Savo. I think, we can never say thank you enough to them, and, certainly watching them over the past several years, I've learned a lot, and, I'll be taking some of that with me here as well, and learning with each of you. But there was some information shared on social media about negative communications that were sent to Mr. Kimball, and it's a shame. It shouldn't happen, and people who do that really are not what we want to represent this community. So, I for myself, I apologize on behalf of somebody who would do that, given that he did serve the community and he did it with, the best interests of the community at hand. But having said that, I am looking forward to serving and working with the board in our future endeavors. And I do have a couple items, too, that I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but
Yeah,
just
mention-
some things to ask. One of the things, and I think a couple of comments were made tonight, where maybe we can consider as a standing agenda item that we have 15 minutes where we invite either one of the committees or another one of the boards to represent to us some things about maybe what's going on, give us like timeline milestones of what they're doing, any sort of challenges that they're facing, where maybe we can provide some support, and then have a Q&A session for that. I think that would help. Like, we have a lot of meetings in the town, and it would be nice to hear from FinCom to say this is what we're working on or what we've been working on for the past couple months, and then give an opportunity for us and anyone attending to ask questions as well. I think that, when I was kind of thinking of how that would work, maybe it's something where we look at the priorities. We certainly talked about FinCom tonight. We talked about the planning board with, I can't remember the project that it was. I think maybe the billboards that we asked. Right. And then just now we talked about the conservation coming too. So if that's something that we can add in.
Maybe we could send a letter out to all the boards mentioning what we'd like to institute and get some feedback from them. So we can definitely try.
Okay. And I can send, Mike, I can send something new too, with just like an outline of, maybe what we're expecting, and if they have any feedback as well.
Sure.
What might help them. Also, just a question on the meeting minutes. Like, can you explain that process, and do we have opportunities to include like links to the recordings or time segments where people can jump to in the recording?
I'm not.
On the, so when the minutes are written up, like, do we have an opportunity on the agenda that's submitted as part of the record to put in a link to the recordings?
Oh, I'm not really familiar.
What do you mean, the recording?
You mean
The recordings,
You mean
yep.
like the cable when it's going to be shown, or?
No, there's
Actually, they have
the URL.
yeah.
The URL to go to the meeting.
You're talking to an old man.
I know. I'm sorry. So out on the World Wide Web.
Yes. Invented by Al Gore, right?
Right. Exactly.
I remember that much.
Plus, you got my Facebook page, which I'm at the meetings, and I take notes and I type it up late at night and put it on my Facebook page for people to see.
Well, we can look into it.
Okay.
I'm sure it can be done, but you're talking to the wrong person to tell you how to do it.
Okay.
And I'm almost proud to say that.
The only other thing I had, and I kind of dubbed it like a community reinvestment, again, potentially an agenda item that we do maybe once a month, where we focus on what can we do in the community. You brought up the ramp with the Norton Res. I think that's one, and the bike path, like something where we just discuss what are some things that were either that have happened or maybe we're in the process of looking at. But I think that would be a nice opportunity to kind of bring something more positive and get feedback solicit feedback from others as well.
It could almost be like, several years ago, we tried to invite local businesses to come in
Mhm.
and talk at meetings. Or we could invite groups such as the bike trail group, or anybody that's doing similar things to come in and visit with us.
Yeah.
Tell us what they're doing, and just kind of publicize what's going on, and what's going on positive in town, instead of, focusing on the negative all the time.
Right.
So, yeah, I can't see why we couldn't do that, but.
And that just brought back something, we have not received any volunteers. At a previous meeting, you talked about getting a committee together to look at the Community Preservation Act and whether it was a good thing or wasn't a good thing, and nobody's come forward from the community to volunteer to be on that. So if we can get that word out again, anyone that would like to participate in that, just let me know, and it would be helpful. If we had the Community Preservation Act, it would go a long way to funding in a lot of these ball field, work on the ball fields, and I know we talked about a playground today at the schools, and we're always, we've got the initial funding for treatment of the ponds, but what's going to happen later on, so it would be good, something to look at.
Anything else?
We'll hunt some people down, even though people are intentionally looking away and ducking behind others. No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Jack?
Yeah, thank you for the warm welcome tonight. I'm really excited to be working with you guys. Just echo Mary and Renee's sentiments about Mr. Campbell and Mr. Salvo. We can't say enough good things about them. I don't know if it's possible. Could we do a day of recognition for them through some sort of formal proclamation, have a Bob Kimball Day and a Bob Salvo Day, just in honor of what they've done for the community?
We could do that. It might be a nice thing to do it in conjunction with Founder's Day.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
If Bob shows up with his popcorn machine again this year. I don't know if he'll be doing that, but it might be a good thing to do for Founder's Day. So,
okay.
I can't see why we couldn't do that.
Great. And similar to Renee's line of thinking, would it be possible to almost do like community forums, like once a month, have one or two members of the Board of Selectmen, maybe at the library, and just hold an open session for townspeople to come in and talk and ask questions and just try to engage the community in a different way?
As long as it's only one or two, we can do anything we want.
Okay. So can I take that as an action to set that up?
Sure.
Great.
I like delegating. I'm getting used to this chair.
Looks good on you.
What did you call that? Community outreach?
Yeah, engagement.
Engagement. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I have a couple of things I failed to mention earlier. Two longtime members of the Norton community passed away this past week. Mr. Charles Tomei, who was a captain firefighter for many years on the call fire fighting unit. He also did a lot of the work on the fire alarm system. He lived up on Oak Street, and he owned a jewelry manufacturing company in Attleboro. He was very active in the community, and he passed away. And also, I believe it was yesterday, Mr. Les Sheldon, who was a long-time member of the Norton Police Department. I believe he retired as a sergeant. He passed away yesterday from cancer. Again, he was a long-time employee of the town. I would say definitely in excess of 20 years. But our condolences go out to both of those families. And I also echo the sentiments of wishing well and thanking both Bob Salvo and Bob Kimball for their many years of service. I especially want to single out Mr. Kimball, who last year bit the bullet and took was going to be my year as chairman. He took it on his second year, which was a lot of work only because my wife had passed away several months before we would have reorganized. And I want to thank him especially for that and other things that he's done for me since my loss. And he was a true friend and a gentleman. And I hope I see him with his popcorn machine at Founder's Day. But, and just to announce that I've mentioned to the board members about reorganization of the board, and we're holding reorganization 2 weeks from today. We decided not to do it today only because I wanted all members to be present, and Mr. Flaherty, due to work commitments, couldn't be here tonight, so we're going to hold off and we'll reorganize on May 16th. And that's all I have. Now we'll get to, gosh, you know, I used to do these meetings so quickly, but we get sidetracked. Warrants and minutes. As vice chairman, I stepped in to sign the following payroll and invoice warrants, and I'm looking for the board to approve payroll warrant PR 19-22 for the week ended April 20th, 2019. Warrant dated April 25, 2019, in the amount of $1,337,289.95.
So moved.
That's a motion?
Jack said so moved.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'll second it, sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to move that the approved invoice warrant AP 1943 dated April 25th, 2019, in the amount of $235,339.42.
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's also unanimous. I'd like the board to approve invoice warrant AP 1944 dated May 2nd, 2019, in the amount of $1,664,814.81.
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Again, that's unanimous. We have several things already for our May 16th meeting, but if anything comes to mind, please notify Mr. Units, and we'll get them on to the next meeting. If there is no other business to come before the board, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's it. Thank you, Shane.